Aussie, Aussie, Aussies!
Stand back out!
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 I remember the night the smoke blew into Canberra for the first time, early December. It was a hot night, so the window in our room where the kids sleep too was open. I went there to check on the kids. It stunk like smoke, like fresh wood smoke. I thought the neighbours must have been having a barbecue, and I felt so mad. How could they be so careless to have an open fire in midsummer and a drought? And of course it wasn't my neighbours, but the smoke from the fires in Murrumurrung National Park and Braidwood. It just smelt so fresh. It was hard to believe it had blown hundreds of kilometres. That was an excerpt from an email my cousin sent me yesterday. My name is Emily, and I have both German and Australian citizenship. I'm here today representing Parents for Future, and I'd like to read the rest of that email to you. It's slightly edited because it was quite long. I felt so mad at smelling the smoke. I'd also just found out that the national park we'd planned to go on holiday to was on fire. I've been going there since I was 14, and I've been so excited to share it with my own kids for the first time. It's totally burnt now. My favourite forests and beaches, so many people I know felt passionately connected to those places. Since that night, I've become increasingly anxious and despairing about the fires in general, and the smoky air my kids, both under 3, are being forced to breathe every day. I've studied climate science and the socio-political aspects of climate change, but nothing really hit home as intensely as it does now, because it's the powerlessness I have to not be able to give my kids fresh air to breathe, and it makes my stomach turn. Over the past month, the air quality in Canberra had gone from hazardous for sensitive groups, including babies, to some days 14 times over the hazardous level for any human. Those days are hell, especially when it's also 40 degrees outside. Those days, the smoke fills our house, even with all the doors and windows shut, with masking tape around the doors to cover the gaps. It still gets in. Your eyes sting, and I feel awful because the anxiety I have about the damage it's doing to my baby's lungs gives me an upset stomach. You feel like running away, but there's literally nowhere to go. The whole country is on fire, and the smoke is just circling around our atmosphere. I'm terrified, actually. A feeling of existential terror and distress from imagining all the human pain and suffering my children will witness in their lives if we don't curb emissions as soon as possible. Grief, too, for all the animals and plants lost. I don't know if there's any point mentioning my feelings about the political ineptitude to deal with this disaster. The spin and propaganda they're pumping out in the media saying it's nothing to do with climate change. It's just madness. I'm angry, but feel so disempowered too. This country is run by coal barons, and they dominate our politics. In crises like this, you realize acutely that we're not in control. When those fires come, they cannot stop them. That this veil that is modern society and our removal from the harshness of nature comes crumbling down. There's a lot more we could do to be prepared and stop these fires if our stupid government would put more funds into important things. But some of these fires, the ones in the national parks, there's nothing we can do. They will burn for months, and we'll be breathing smoke for months. I cried when I read that email, quite a lot. And I'm sure many of you have heard similar accounts or even experienced the devastating bushfires firsthand. And while I'm grateful that my children don't have to breathe in smoke here right now, I am completely aware that this is a future we could also be facing here. The last 2 years have been so dry. We have seen wildfires in the forests surrounding Berlin. Trees and forests are dying all over Germany. And I also feel helpless because I can't make the smoke in Canberra go away. I can't help my cousin Carla. Half my family is Australian, so our home here in Berlin is filled with children's books about Australian wildlife, wombats, koalas, platypuses, possums, kangaroos, cockatoos. Australia has an incredibly rich and unique wildlife. Conservative estimates predict that the fires have already killed over 1 billion animals so far. And the fires are still burning. Bushfire season is not over. Some species may have even crossed the line to extinction. So when I look at those books with my kids and they ask me 1,000 questions about those animals, I don't know which of them will still exist when they grow up. And it breaks my heart. And I wonder when they will begin to understand and who they will blame. And like my cousin Carla, I often feel disempowered. I have another Australian cousin. I call him Cousin G. I have many, many cousins. And he works for a big corporation that owns and operates several mining projects, including coal. I'll call him Cousin G. Although he would never deny human-caused climate change, he is also fairly certain that Australia can't provide enough renewable energy to cover its demand. Contrary to that, quite a few experts have predicted Australia could run entirely on renewables by 2024. So, like most families, mine is complicated. We have a WhatsApp chat where we exchange photos and funny stories, but never really talk about politics or climate change. I think that might have changed now, because I have asked them about their feelings concerning the fires, Australian politics, the Adani mine, and climate change, and they are angry. I was really surprised and grateful how my family opened up and shared their concerns and thoughts with me. And I'm even going to have a phone call with Cousin G from the mining business. So I actually do feel empowered right now, because I know he takes these things seriously, and I know we all want a future on a living planet for our children. We have to start where we can, open up a conversation about how to get this right, how to do this better, how to break out of cycles and systems we and the entire world are caught up in. And we have to start at the grassroots, talk to our friends, our families, our neighbours, because we are all going to be affected by the catastrophic consequences of a warming planet, including those working in the fossil fuel industries. So personally, while I have lost faith in Australia's government, as it appears to be firmly in the grip of the coal industry, watching it letting down its own people, fueling the climate crisis with yet another coal mine, cutting funding for fire services, and even flat out denying the crisis, threatening to make climate protests illegal, and that at the end of a year that has been the driest and hottest on record in Australia. I also know that at a grassroots level, many changes are already happening. I know farmers are offering their paddocks for neighbours who have lost everything, while others are donating hay. I know that thousands of volunteer firefighters have been working beyond exhaustion. I know that people all around the world are fundraising and donating and protesting and trying to help to restore wildlife and support communities hit by the fires. I know that more and more people are trying their best, and they are also demanding government action for change. And industries and corporations are also beginning to act. I know many people are having difficult conversations with families, friends, and neighbours addressing these issues, and I think we desperately need to listen to each other and work together. My dad is getting solar panels. So I haven't lost faith in us, and I believe in the Australian people. And I want to send a message to my cousin Carla in Canberra, surrounded by smoke. You are not alone. We are here. We are also grieving, and we are doing all that we can. And we will not accept this reality, this future. So while we definitely demand action from our governments, and I firmly believe telling the truth concerning the climate crisis, acting on it accordingly, and creating citizens' assemblies to implement solutions are the way forward, as demanded by Extinction Rebellion, we will also do everything in our power to help build a world and society not based on the exploitation and destruction of each other and the natural world, our home, but a society based on empathy for each other and all beings, courage, creative and new solutions to the problems we are facing, and of course, reckless hope. Together we can be the change. Thank you.